I'm so excited to talk about season 3, part 1 of Bridgerton. I just watched the first 4 episodes. I watched them all in one sitting. I loved it. I thought they were excellent. I had just previously finished my first read-through of book 4 of the Bridgerton series, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which also focuses on Colin and Penelope's love story. And I thought that the show did a fantastic job really staying true to their romance that we see in the book, while also incorporating the pieces of the show that are a little bit different than the book, incorporating other characters, side plots, changing a little bit of the pieces of the Penelope and Colin romance that I actually think elevated it to another level. So I'll talk through Colin and Penelope and their romance, but also the different side plots and my thoughts on those. Starting with Colin and Penelope's romance, I absolutely loved how it was executed in the show. I think that the changes that they made actually enhanced their relationship. I really loved in episode 2 how after their kiss, Colin really starts having feelings with Penelope, and we see that as the audience throughout episodes 3 and 4. That's something in the book I don't think we really see that happen. We're told pretty quickly, oh, all of a sudden he has feelings, and then that happens quite instantaneously, whereas we get to see that build in the show, which I think has a great payoff when we get to the end of episode 4. I really enjoyed that piece. I think having that through the last 2 seasons and also season 3, we see Colin and Penelope's friendship, right? And I think we see that grow even more as Colin is instructing Penelope and helping her find a husband. I think we see that friendship grow, whereas in the books we don't get that as much, so I really enjoyed that payoff as well. I really liked the Lord Devling aspect. I think that kind of shows that Colin isn't the only option for Penelope, that she has other options, and also I think that helped make Colin act on his feelings even more so than if that hadn't been the case, and I really appreciated that. I'm so excited to see where that goes in this back half of season 3. I'll have another video that talks about some of my predictions and thoughts on part 2, so I'll save a lot of those thoughts for that video, so you can check that out. That will be coming soon. But I am really excited. I like where it ended off. I like that they kept a lot of the key scenes from the book here. The part in the drawing room where she finds and reads his journals and incorporates that. I like that he didn't get as angry as he does in the book there. Like, he's frustrated, he's a little upset, but he doesn't get very mad at Penelope, which I like, and I appreciate that change. I also really like the callback to how they first met is very similar to how they first met in the book. I like those touches. They keep that romance true. And then obviously the carriage scene, I love that scene so much. I love that Colin comes and confesses his feelings for Penelope and that she's sure that he really does love her. Whereas in the book, a bit of a spoiler, she's not really sure of that until later on in their romance, where she thinks that he might be just interested in her out of obligation, where that is clearly not the case in the show, which I really love. That last shot and that last scene of Colin stepping out of the carriage, asking Penelope if she's going to marry him, and the way he asks it, how it's so obvious to him, but she's just clearly so shocked by it all. I just really loved that scene. I think it's a great way to end and leading into part 2 of season 3. So now for the side plots. There were quite a few in part 1 of season 3, and I actually really enjoyed all of them, which is rare. In seasons 1 and 2, there have been some side plots that I've cared about and enjoyed, and some that I just really could have done without. So I really appreciated and thought that all the different side plots either helped to elevate the main plot of Colin and Penelope, and I think will lead to a lot of things in part 2, or they're there to help the other Bridgerton siblings lead up to the next seasons and their own seasons of the show. So I'll start with the Featherington family. I loved these scenes. They were hilarious. I love them so much. I think also the added kind of twist of needing a male heir, which I think is provided for a lot of comedy relief, but I also think it adds a twist, and I've seen some of the theories online, and I am one to agree that I think it will be interesting to see how that ties into Colin and Penelope's story. If that means a pregnancy is quite imminent for them and how that plays in. I think that could be very telling. It could also just mean that Penelope's sisters just have girls, whereas Colin and Penelope could maybe have a male heir down the line and it's not as immediate, but I think the timing is interesting, and why bring it up now if it isn't going to tie into Colin and Penelope's plot, and perhaps it will be something for the next season for them. Another side plot that I really loved was Cressida and Eloise and Penelope, and a little bit of Colin and Lord Debling and all of that stuff. I thought Eloise as a character and her interactions with Colin and Penelope and Cressida to some extent were so intriguing in this season, and I think it's going to be even more so in part 2 with the Lady Whistledown of it all. But I think that the way they've handled Penelope and Eloise navigating the fallout of their friendship, not really being able to confide in anyone what the true reason behind that is, how Colin played into that, I just love that dynamic. You could really feel just how heartbreaking it is for the fallout of a friendship, and how they still clearly want, like, that friendship is still there. They still are, both Penelope and Eloise are really missing their friendship with each other, and they're trying to find that in other people, and in some cases it's more successful than others, and there's certain times where that works and others where it doesn't, and I just find it so fascinating. I especially love the scene of Eloise going to visit Penelope in episode 3 after Penelope wrote all the stuff about her and Colin as Lady Whistledown, and Eloise comes to kind of check in on her and she understands how it feels. I just really, really loved that so much. I also think it's going to be very interesting how Eloise's friendship with Cressida impacts part 2 of season 3. Cressida has a big role in Colin and Penelope's story in the book and in the second half of the book, and I imagine that will be the same in the second half in the part 2 of season 3. So I'm very interested to see how that comes out, because you get moments of Cressida in the first part of the season where she's not a true evil villain. They humanize her with introducing the plot with her dad and having to find a husband before her parents give her one. All of that really humanizes Cressida, so I'm very interested to see if they make her a true evil villainous kind of character in the second part of the season, or if she kind of has some redemption as well. I'm very intrigued about that, very interested to see what Eloise does and where we end up at the end of season 3 with Penelope, Eloise, and Colin, and kind of that whole situation. Super intrigued by that. Then we also have Francesca and her debut and coming out on the Marriage Mart, getting to actually see her and know her as a character, because even in seasons 1 and 2, when she was played by another actress, we never really got to see her. She wasn't shown very much, she didn't have many lines, we didn't get to know her as a character. So for the show, this is our real first introduction to Francesca as a character, and I love how they're setting up her and her romance with John, and I love that they're building towards that. Obviously, John is not Francesca's main romance in the books, so I love that they're setting that up and setting up her growth and her journey before we get to her main romantic plot and romantic storylines for her book and her season. I really appreciate that. And then obviously also Benedict, they're starting to set him up. I'm not sure exactly where they're going with him in this relationship with this woman that they've just started in episode 3 and 4. He really wasn't doing a whole lot in episodes 1 and 2. So I'm very interested to see where that goes in part 2 as well, and how that sets him up for his romance in his season. Overall, I'm just really, really enjoying the whole season. I think it's a great setup for part 2. I think part 1 was a real setup for all the dominoes to fall and all the drama that we're going to see in part 2 and at the end of the season. I can't wait. I need it to be June 13th so fast. For my thoughts on part 2 and my breakdown of the part 2 teaser that we got at the end of episode 4, look out for that video. It's coming, and I will talk to you later. Bye.